advisors or seniors is to keep them on track, make them aware of the deadline, and just keep giving them as much support and encouragement as we can. Because if they don't complete this project, they won't walk across the stage.
Just something to make a connection. Learner expectations, the document that someone will send you, or are you sending out learner expectations? Okay. So this is a document that shows the individual skills under each learner expectation. Those skills are sequenced so that when they are done with those sequence of skills, they are ready for the senior project. So the learner expectations and the senior project appear to be two separate things, but they're not, because the sequence of skills in that document leads you up to the senior project. So it's very important that you have your advisees look at those skills, identify which ones are the strengths. I got a lot of reflection. There's nothing wrong with being very broad. I was a good collaborator because I worked well together. Have them focus on individual skills in that document, because those are the things that they're expected to be able to do when they get to the senior project.
Skip that one.
Oh, okay. All right. So every quint there's a theme for advisory, and they're all aligned with the learner expectations. So quint 1, I know upper school, well, we all focus on relationship building and being a collaborator. Quint 2, upper school focuses on planning for the portfolio, strengths and weaknesses. As a lower school, we're kind of always building a portfolio of each quint with artifacts. Well, as is upper school, but you guys really plan for the portfolio then. Quint 3, we focus on social justice topics. Quint 4, the portfolio should be completed. In Quint 5, they share the portfolio and present their social justice projects. And every Friday we use that time, the extra time for advisory, to focus on lesson plans that have to do with each learner expectation.
Should Quint 2 and 4 should actually be switched.
Oh.
I think that's just that's the bold's
Oh, okay.
It's correct.
Sorry about that. Quint 2 and 4 should be switched. So Quint 2, they should have their portfolio completed.
No, just
No, the problem
the
solving
learner
should be
expectations.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's in your packet.
We
You want
mixed
to
that
just
up.
hand it out.
Thank you, Ms. Ethier. All right. So here's the daily schedule. Every morning at 8:15 for lower school, we go upstairs to the chef center and pick up the kids. Upper school, the kids report to your classrooms. And you would take attendance, you check agendas for written homework assignments, and check that homework is completed. Sometimes you might have a student that struggles with the homework assignment, so that's a great opportunity for you to sit down with the student and help them with that homework assignment. You do inspections of the uniforms. Does anyone have any questions about what the uniform is? I know lower school, we went over this yesterday, but. All right, we also read morning announcements. So sometimes in our morning meeting, one of the administrators or one of the teachers might have an announcement, like, oh, 5th grade's going on a field trip today, or there's going to be an all-school at the end of the day, or, you know. So you read those morning announcements to the students.
And could I just interject really quick?
Of course.
One thing that we all come together every day as a staff, and a lot of things are uncovered during the morning meeting, as far as, you know, victories in sports or awards that students may have won, or we recognize things that students do. This is a perfect time to give that kid their 5 minutes to shine. Anytime, I can use Dr. Ryan as an example because he runs and he runs well. So anytime W comes in and shares with us something that Dr. Ryan did, some record that he broke or whatever, I always make sure that we recognize Dr. Ryan during advisory. He gets his applause, we give him his praise, because that's the, like I said, the sub family, and you know that always feels good. So whenever you have something that's happening in the school community, if that's your advisor, your advisee, it's always nice to recognize them in front of the advisory.
Thanks, Ms. First. And then also we create weekly goals. So every Monday when the students come in, I have my students just write it on a Post-it note, and we post up our goals in the front of the room so everyone can see. And you know, these goals can be academic, or you know, some of the students create goals like they want to work on their soccer skills. I know for lower school, it can be any goal that they really want to work on throughout the week, and we check in with them. You know, one of my students stated they wanted to finish a chapter book that week that they had been reading for a while, and you know, I checked in with them throughout the week to make sure they were making progress with it and how far along they were. And then for communication, I know Ms. Brooks already talked about this, but we make bi-weekly phone calls or emails. And then on the week that we are not making phone calls or communicating with parents, that way we send home progress reports. And that's actually the teacher's responsibility to take those progress reports and hand them out to the kids. That's the thing for us, right? Yeah, okay. And that's on Friday. And also we communicate with parents as needed. I know you guys touched on it before, but you know, one of my advisees, their grandma was really sick, I found out, so I ended up just calling the parents throughout the week just to check in, make sure she's doing fine. It's kind of like a personal relationship we form with the parents. Also, you want to remember to call the parents on positive and negative notes. Sometimes the teacher might come up to you and say, you know, there's an altercation at recess, one of you know, your advisee got in a fight with another student, or you know, there's an argument, so you might call home about that. But also you might want to call home, you know, one of my advisees did something really nice. She was a fifth grader, and she helped out a kindergartner in the hallway. The kindergartner was crying, so I called home to let mom know about that incident that I saw, and mom was obviously really happy to hear about that. And it's really important to remember to log all calls and emails on Google Docs. So any communication that you have with the parents, remember to log, even if it's a voicemail you left, log the date and the time so that, you know, we have it. And Mr. Fulton does check that every other week, just to make sure. So, all right.
All right. Just remember this is a discussion. If anyone has anything to say or add, please do. All right, so student conferences. This, I believe, was brand new to everything last year. Lower school, we had conferences twice throughout the whole school year. Once in October and then in April. We had student-led conferences, and I believe the upper school only had December. So I don't know if that's going to stay the same or...
We have 2 dates, 2 weeks as well.
I think it's on.
Okay, I'll tell you what they are, but I don't want to get those up, but I have these. So say that loud, so you, it's upper school to 2 this year.
It's at the very end.
It's at the very end.
So we'll get to that.
So we'll get to it. But basically, a student-led conference is, it's like all about the student. So, you know, it's the student, it's their parents, their guardians who come, and then it's you, the advisor. And this is, you know, their time to shine. They're showing all their artifacts that they had, and it's like reflecting on all like the learner expectations. So when we have it in October, it'll be about, okay, show your artifacts about when you were a collaborator, and then show your artifacts about when you were an information processor. So artifacts can be in a binder or a portfolio, which works well for really little kids. And then upper school or older students can do like an e-portfolio, PowerPoint, something like that. And oh, at this point they had already filled out an assessment too. During advisory, the students fill out like an assessment. I know like my age students really little have like smiley faces, you know, in the middle about, you know, how was I as a collaborator, what did I learn throughout the plan. So they have that as like a guide, and especially when they're, you know, at least little like my age, it's like a good starting point for us to talk at the conferences. Goals of student-led conferences. So this is all about the student being responsible. It's like, you know, an interview but not an interview. Just about like how they've been doing in school and how they've been, you know, what they've been learning through the expectations. And it's a great way too to like involve like their family. Like this is their time to like show like, you know, mom and dad about, you know, what I've been doing in school, and you know, a lot of them really feel proud for doing it. So, you know, they always say they're nervous, but by the time they get into it, they're so, you know, and of course, parents said, and, well, little, I'm sure the elders said that. Need to be, the parents get them involved. And it's like, it gets, so this is what we've been doing in school. I'm sure tons of people go home every day and not, I don't think parents get all of them. So it's a good way to highlight some of the important ones. Benefits of student-led conferences, just like I said before about what's going on in the classroom, encourages an opportunity for 100% parent participation. We really try to get every single conference done. Sometimes it has to be scheduled, before the times that we have, or it might have to be later after school. But it's a great way for the parents to get involved, know what's going on, and it holds the student accountable, for their work and getting it done, and being practice. So, questions? Discussion? Okay.
All right, so the roles within the conference, I think that I'm gonna need Maggie's help, because Maggie, I don't know how to work your computer. I'm gonna go over the roles within the conference with you, but I'm thinking this would be easier to show you one of my advisees' e-portfolio.
Down. Right there.
Oh, yeah, we know. All right, so this is one of my advisees' e-portfolios. Megan, one of my past advisees. How old? She is in the 5th grade. She was in the 5th grade. Now she's in the 6th, so she's one of the high flyers in advisory. She's going to Mr. Tahoe. Well, she is Mr. Tahoe now. So basically, the roles within the conference, the student as a presenter, she begins a conference by opening the portfolio to share the goal sheets, self-assessments, sample work, rubrics, and artifacts. So this was her cover.
Just the arrow.
So this is one of her rubrics. I wish I could make it bigger, but just to give you a sample of it, this is one of the rubrics she had to complete. So she answered the question, what is an empathetic citizen? She went into some of the things she did to prove that she was an empathetic citizen, and it was a whole rubric form that she basically filled out herself. So this was something for her to be held accountable for her actions, what she can do to get better. And she presented this to her mom. So the student is presenting everything. The parents are there, literally. She was in front, just like what we're doing right now. The mom sat right here. She talked to the mom. And pre-K students do this as well. They have e-portfolios also. And the 3-year-old stands in front of the smart board. Some of them click on it. This is my work for discipline. This is my work. So pre-K students do the exact same thing for their parents. Pre-K students also do the rubrics, with some help and support. But pre-K, yeah, it's more smiley faces, so it's not just this. There's more smiley faces, but they do them as well, and they do e-portfolios, and they stand up and they present their work as well. These are her artifacts. So these are the artifacts that she was collecting. She collected around about 2 from each Quinn. My advisees, they love artifacts. They love to bring them to me. So I'll have leave it up to them. I'll have 8 or 10. They're like artifact crazy. But the minimum 2 per Quinn. So this was her Quinn 3 artifacts, her math and science. She explained what she did in each of her artifacts. She explained why she was proud of it. She explained what she learned from it, from the particular artifacts in that. And once again, the advisor, really, you're like the timekeeper. You're there to you're really just there. You're like the timekeeper. Sometimes the younger students will need you to coach them along. They'll stumble over their words. They're nervous the first time out the gate. So you're there to kind of help coach them along if they forget certain things. I usually like to have my advisees present to the advisory the day of their conference. So if it's conference week, every morning I'll have my advisees present their conference to the advisees.
I think it's usually 4 per quint, 4 artifacts
per
per quint.
Okay, what had happened was, I got to do 2 this particular one because I took over the middle of the year. Okay. All right. So this is more of the artifacts from her humanities section. And once again, she actually did this e-portfolio herself. Megan she's definitely a high flyer. She emailed me the portfolio like late one night. I was like, dude, what are you doing? And she did this all herself. I had some kindergartners that couldn't do an e-portfolio, which was fine. It was better for them to hold their work and be able to show their parents what they were doing. And once again, even with the kindergarten student-led conferences, I didn't really say much. Because they had to work in front of their hands, they knew what to do. I just kind of pushed them along as far as time goes.
Shamar,
Yes.
it looks like that, what's your name, Emily?
Megan.
Megan, sorry, your name is
Smart
Emily.
name.
Yeah, I know. Megan has obviously, a really strong work ethic. A lot of her work is really good. One thing that everybody should understand as an advisor, your artifacts don't have to be your best work.
Yeah.
They can be your worst work as long as you have reflected properly on why you did well or you didn't do well at this specific learner expectation.
Just to piggyback, I actually had one advisee who did come in, and when he did his e-portfolio from his parents, one of the artifacts wasn't his best work. And he reflected on why it wasn't his best work. With his parents, he went over his work, he said, okay, I didn't get a good grade on this because I rushed through it, I didn't put my name on it, I didn't really answer the questions, I didn't really do all of it. And that was fine. So his goal at the end of the conference was to, okay, what are we going to do to correct this? I'm going to take my time to my work, I'm actually going to finish it. So that is true. One of my advisors didn't have, one of his artifacts wasn't exactly stellar, but he reflected on it.
And it's a growth portfolio, so that's what you're supposed to show. And I think with the standards-based reporting, it's going to illuminate that even more, how the kid has gotten better throughout the quint, and they really feel satisfaction from, hey, I really learned this.
Yeah.
So growth is awesome.
Absolutely. So that's just another one of her projects that she did that, but once again, Megan is that student where she's not going to get below an 80. That's just not going to happen in her world. So this is just to show you what an e-portfolio can look like. They're all different. She did this herself. And each one, she put her rubrics, her work, and I don't think you're going to see many of the things that she didn't do with hers. So, yeah, she did her biggest for watching. So that's that. I just wanted to show you that as you see the role within the conference. And really, when you're there as the advisor, you're not really there to do a whole lot of talking because it's not about you. It's about the student. So it's about the student taking accountability for their work and loving what they do. Well, parents can ask questions, but they don't ask you. They ask at least when I do my conferences, I say to my advisors, okay, ask your parents if they have any questions for you. And a lot of times it is a back and forth. So with a student that had the work that wasn't necessarily the best, when he asked his parents, do you have any questions for me? The parent was one that said, okay, what could you have done differently? And the student and the parent had a back and forth on that. And another parent asked, what are you most proud of throughout the year? And the student answered the question, what you were most proud of. And if they do have a question for the teacher, I usually just say, okay, if I know it, I know it. If I don't, I usually say, I'll get back to you, I'll ask the teacher and get back to you. And did your hand up? B? Oh, I thought you had your hand up, I'm sorry. So, Maggie, I don't know how to get back to the PowerPoint.
All right. And
So-
for lower school especially, I brought some of my advisees' portfolios, the hard copies, just because I keep all the artifacts in a binder as well. So if you want to see, they're all on that page. I know some of you had asked.
And while she goes back to it, to the PowerPoint, there was a before the conference. So basically, before the conference, you're using the point to get the artifacts or your students' work. The kindergartners, first graders, I always went to the teachers myself and just said, okay, do you have any work that they need to set aside for me? And I usually get them from the teachers. But as you get into the older students, like second, third, fourth, fifth, and up, they bring me their own artifacts. So they'll usually do it in class.
I'm sorry.
So they'll usually, they'll usually get their own artifacts and bring them to me. You can keep them a bunch of different ways. I had each student had a folder that they would put their artifacts in. And it's also a good time during the quint to work on the self-assessment sheet, which are the rubrics that you saw in there, because you don't want to wait to the end of the quint to do it, because then you're doing everyone's self-assessment sheets all at once, and that's a lot of work for you. So throughout the quint, it's easy to sit down with your advisees and work on it throughout the quint. That way, by the time the conferences come around, everything is pretty much done. And what I like to do also, I'll have my 4th and 5th graders help out the kindergartners and the 1st graders. So that way, they're more so helping each other, and I just kind of facilitate, because it's all about the students taking responsibility for their learning.
That's a good point, Kate brought up. The self-assessments were mainly done by the lower school. It wasn't done by the upper school, I believe. So, when she says the self-assessment, that's only talking to the lower school
I
staff.
think we're doing self-assessments? Yeah. The other students have different self-assessments. But like the lower school self-assessments were pretty intense and pretty involved. So we kind of had to sit with them throughout it, and we had to sit there and pull apart wherever they could. So during the conference, they're just discussing with their parents what they've done, what we're working on. My last conference, I said, you have 6 weeks left. What's the goal that you're going to hit before the 6 weeks is up? So I think that's it. After the conference, we, as advisors, after the conference is over, we give them a slip that they get to say, what they learned from the conference, what's one thing that they want to see in the conference. The student also does a slip where we talk to our students about what can I do differently in the next conference, what can I make better, what do I need to work on, are we organizing our artifacts effectively, which is all growth and learning. So it's something that you reflect on yourself, also as an advisor. Was I organized for this? Did I have everything where I needed to have it? So that falls in using the advisor as well as students. And I just want to go back really quickly before I think we're going up next. When we talk about our advising being like our family, that's what I say to my advisor. Before we leave every single day, before we leave in the morning, I say the same thing. We are a family. Take care of each other, look out for each other, support each other. So in a sense, they'll start off as the students, but very quickly they become your kids. And you care for them and you love them just like you're their parents. So that's that.
And I think that's it. We just put the dates to remember. This year we will, lower school and upper school will be having the same dates for student-led conferences. And also another important reminder is that you will be having your kids, for lower school, you have your kids from kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade. And then you have a sister advisory. Oh, is that you, Ms. Vivian? No. Oh, okay, sorry, I thought you were. And then you have a sister advisory. So for example, Ms. Ethier is my sister advisory. So then my 5th graders go to Ms. Ethier until they graduate. And as a sister advisory, some Fridays we'll get together and do activities as a whole group, which is really nice. So the lower school and upper school kids get to work together. And we focus on the learner expectations. Like one time we did a problem-solving activity, and we did, different icebreakers, and the kids had a lot of fun with it, and they would look forward to it all the time. They'd be like, when are we getting together with Miss Ethier's advisory? They got really excited about it. So it's a great opportunity to work with the upper school kids. And I think your sister advisories will be sent out by email.
That was that banter you heard between me and Mr. Taha. So like my advisee, he's like my advisee. So he's my sister advisee. So maybe we went to him.
Okay, awesome.
One last thing about student-led conferences, you might want to get to know, there are quite a few families in Capital Prep that have multiple students here. So when you're setting up your student-led conferences, it's always good to know if your advisee has sibling or siblings in the school, and try to coordinate that for the parents so that they can, either do them all at once or make sure that you don't have any conflict in the schedule.
Yeah, I think Maggie and I, two of our advisors are brothers, so I scheduled the first conference at 5:15. She came back to back at 5:30, just kind of make it easier for the parents.
Yeah, which they like. So I think that's it. Any questions? Oh, yeah.
One thing that is new this year in the packet that you have, there are 4 rubrics that are put. I guess we've all had issues with trying to make sure that kids stay on track with portfolios, and then it comes time for the conference, and you have classroom that has no artifacts, and so you're scrambling, they're scrambling, it's embarrassing. So we kind of set up a system that's similar to an SJP rubric, where it's just like, okay, meets, has to meet these certain things by this certain time, otherwise they're going to be put on a certain level of intervention. So if you look at the packet that was handed out to you, and you'll also get an electronic version of it, there are 4 rubrics. One is a portfolio, or 2 are portfolio rubrics that are kind of like halfway checkpoints to the conference, making sure that they're getting a certain amount of artifacts each quint for each learner expectation, so that it's not like 45 artifacts from Ms. Davern's class. They're like, oh, here's all my work from Ms. Davern's class, and I don't have anything else from any other class. That's not going to be acceptable anymore. Before it was just kind of like, well, make sure they have 40 artifacts, and so they could have just done that however they wanted to. So now we've kind of set up a little bit more stringent guidelines in terms of what they need to have from each quint. So look at that when you can. If questions come up, you can ask myself or Mr. Vigansky. And then there's also a conference rubric. It's not anything about like the quality of their presentation. It's just kind of making sure that they hit certain marks, like that they have, that they at least discuss 3 of the 5 learner expectations. And this is a pre-K through 12 document. It might be a little bit harder for like pre-K through 3rd grade. It might be more of like the advisor just checking off that they've gotten certain artifacts. It's obviously a lot more teacher guided at that point. But in terms of like the deadlines and the number of artifacts, those are pre-K through 12.
Mr. Fulton did send out the email about the sister advisor today. So that should be in your email who your sister advisor is.